aspect in your work is sound.
Mm-hmm.
You have multiple poems that are called Sound Part 1, Sound Part 2.
Mm-hmm.
And you end with the poem Polyphony. Can you talk about how you approach sound in your work or why it's so important to you?
It comes from birth, the very beginning, like, really being like raised in music and loving music. And I don't know, I feel like being raised in a household and in a church where things are always like repeated hundreds of times, like sometimes in a beautiful way and sometimes in a nagging, annoying way. And I even find that I have that tick too. It drives my kids crazy, and I can hear myself sometimes in the classroom doing that. I'm sure they're like, why does she keep repeating the same thing over and over? So there's that. And then working through it more artistically, thinking about how I can hold a poem all day. Like, so it comes from getting busier, being married and having certain kinds of responsibilities, having a job and having responsibilities, having one child, and so less sort of free time, sitting, meditative time. And if a poem comes to me while I'm in the Giant Eagle supermarket, and my daughter is in the basket, I can't stop necessarily and write it. So it's a device that I just developed over time to hold the poem until I could write it down on paper. So that's a key thing.
When you read your poetry, it feels very much, I know you said you don't feel comfortable as a singer, but it feels like you're one step down from song, the way your delivery. I don't mean sing-songy in a derogatory sense, but it'll almost seem like you're singing certain words. Is that scary?
No, I actually think it's a source of protection. So, actually maybe it starts or began in a kind of scary place, but I feel like the personal challenge in my work is to face that kind of fear. So to me, that kind of repetition, that songness that you're hearing is, to me, it's like, it functions like a kind of shield. So I think it comes out of a little bit of stubbornness too. So, maybe if, in a program you hear sing-songy is awful, even you set it up like, I don't mean this in a derogatory way. So there's a little bit of resistance that comes into play, I think, for me around that, saying, well, I don't want to be afraid of how people interpret it or whether or not they think it's negative. And I want to stay focused on the value in it, what I see it doing. So I use it as a source of protection. And I just stand in it and I let it repeat or go up or go down. And that's okay.
I wanted to ask you about your use of the word little. That's another word that comes up a lot.
I don't think anyone's ever asked me that before.
And I want to ask you about it because you have these moments when you're in school where someone tells you something and it like just sticks. And I was told to never use that word in a poem.
Really?
And again, it comes back to this idea of sentimental and sentimentality. And I was like, I love it. I was so excited to see it. It's a word that seems full of delight. Tell me about it.
I think for me, it's also like cultural. I can hear that I can see so many hands on hips and little so-and-so, little this, little that. You know what I mean? So to me, there's many a Black woman saying little something, something, little so-and-so. So to me, it's that. And then children's books. I think that's a word that is common in those books too, folk tales. So, and that's also, at the reading I talked about this, is like part of my stubbornness and rebellion. And your question before, coming into my own with this book, like people say the craziest things in MFA programs. I don't know who taught you not to say little, but I remember being told that repeating something 3 times is good. Like that's
Yeah, I was told that too.
and so I feel like, I think I'm going to say it 5. I think I'm going to say it 10. So exaggerating that in my poems and then in person. So, I'm going to make you sit through this stitch 5 or 6 times, and everybody's going to be okay after that. And you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So I think people are really well-meaning mostly when they're giving us feedback. But sometimes you have to be a little bit stubborn about it and like stand for something, like say, no, I'm gonna do it this way. And it might not even be successful at first, but just kind of work through it.
I always like to ask folks for their advice to young writers and their advice to young poets. And they always say that they should read. So we have that covered. We have that advice covered. Beyond that, what is your advice to young writers?
Just think about, what do you hate and who do you love? And really, Taha, Muhammad Ali, said that first. And I think that's so important. I think it goes back to having your own curiosity and leading your own investigation rather than have someone like dish it out to you. So you love Lucille Clifton. What is it about her that you love so much? And like really interrogating that and following that curiosity forever. You could just pick one love and unpack it for years and years and years.